You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. It's Dr. J in the house today with Evan Brand. Evan, what's going on?
Hey, man, we've had a great day so far. We've been productively working behind the scenes. I don't think people comprehend the amount of work that it takes to get this content out to them.
It really does. Not only the content, but how to display it. I'm trying to do some redesign stuff on my site to make it a little more user-friendly. And we've also been talking about doing more periscope, scoping, if you will, which will give patients and different viewers the ability to watch us live and ask questions and get instantaneous feedback.
Yeah, so search for us. By the time you hear this, Dr. J will have his Periscope going. I've got my Periscope going. Search for me. I've got followers on there, and I've never even told anybody that I have it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, my Periscope name is Just in Health, all lowercase, no spaces. I imagine yours is what, Not Just Paleo or Evan Brand?
Yeah, either way, they can search your name and find you, or they can search your tag. It's the same for me.
Got it. Great. Well, today we talked about in the pre-show that we wanted to talk about the autoimmune diet and kind of the first steps of treating an autoimmune condition. And again, check out the last podcast on leaky gut that just came out recently, because leaky gut's really going to be one of the underlying mechanisms in which autoimmune conditions start. So just kind of back up a bit. So autoimmunity is nothing more than your immune system starting to attack self. And depending on what tissue is attacked, that's basically the diagnosis you get. So if you start attacking your myelin and your nervous system, you get MS. If you're attacking the midbrain, where your dopamine is produced in the substantia nigra in the back of your brainstem, that's Parkinson's. If something happens, let's say, in your peripheral nerves, that could be Guillain-Barré or even polio potentially, but typically Guillain-Barré. Also thyroid, Hashimoto's, pancreas, type 1 diabetes. If it's your end of your colon, it's ulcerative colitis. If it's your small intestine, it's Crohn's, right? So you can just go, the list goes on. If it's the microvilli in your small intestine, right, the little vacuum cleaners that suck up nutrients, that's celiac. So you can see all of these different conditions basically just get a fancy name based off of what tissue is being destroyed. It's kind of like how medicine works. Big fancy diagnosis. I mean, if you just said you have autoimmunity of your intestine, it'd be a lot easier to understand that than say Crohn's. So that's kind of how conventional medicine works in labeling things. And now the next step, the first piece of the puzzle is obviously going to be the lifestyle and the diet piece. Because when we have an autoimmune condition, this leaky gut phenomenon is happening. And go back to that old podcast, but that's where the tight junctions in your gut, imagine a zipper. Imagine that zipper being nice and tight, or the analogy we gave in the last podcast is interlock your fingers like you're saying a prayer, and imagine pulling those fingers apart just a little bit so you see daylight, or imagine the zipper just being zipped down just a bit. That's like that tight junction. It starts to open up, and undigested food particles, bacteria, infectious material can start to go into the bloodstream and create inflammation. And the immune system is hyper responding, and in the process, this thing known as molecular mimicry occurs, where we start to attack other tissues or other proteins that look similar to what's floating in the bloodstream.
Yeah, so maybe we should talk about some of the causes too. I mean, you talked about the lifestyle stuff, getting that in check. A lot of people, I'm just going to reel some of these off. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the things that you and I have both been trained on that cause, the quote unquote splinters of autoimmunity. So you got the emotional, cognitive stress, unhealthy coping patterns, you got poor nutrition, you got GI stress, adrenal stress or burnout, you got hormone stress, which, you work with hormones all the time. It's massive for gut issues, inflammation, like we've already talked about, and then toxins. And, we're talking about the diet. So obviously we're not going to have time to cover all of those, but taking baby steps in each direction is the only way that makes sense, because it's not one magic thing that's going to fix you. It's not one poisonous thing that's causing you your issues. It's a combination of likely dozens or hundreds of different causes that are all adding up to cause this condition.
Exactly. So the first piece of the puzzle that we're going to really put as our main focus on today's podcast is going to be the diet piece. And everyone that's probably coming here has already heard of a paleo diet. And if people listen, they know that I don't like the word diet, right? One, the first three letters of the word have the word die in it. That's not a pretty good way to do it. And most people, the word diet kind of has a connotation of it being a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like a long-term thing. So I like template and lifestyle plan. So paleo templates are really kind of good approach. It's like the foundational piece, and everything from there can be modified from a paleo template, whether you go to GAPS or Bulletproof or autoimmune or SCD, or whether you do a low FODMAP. All these things can be adjusted based on that template. So today we're going to really shine the light on an autoimmune diet. So first off, paleo is kind of the foundation, which is cutting out grains, legumes, or dairy, and paleo kind of has another couple of side elements to it, whether it's primal, where you allow butter or a little bit of cream, or whether you're just strict paleo, where there's no butter or cream. Now, most people who are paleo, they can handle some good, high-quality grass-fed butter or some high-quality cream. But again, there's some individuality there. Talk to your functional medicine doctor about that if you need help on it. But when we go to the autoimmune piece, we really graduate to really being 100% grain-free. So no corn, even no rice, potentially. Yeah, I know. And see, rice and corn are a couple of big ones. Obviously, no oat. Oat's a common cross-reactive one because of the avenin that's in it. And then you have all the other types of grains there that may connect in with it. So like the big gluten-free grains are going to be like, the big gluten grains are wheat, barley, and rye. Those have the primary gluten in it. And then every grain outside of wheat, barley, and rye is technically considered gluten-free. So we would really cut out all of the gluten-free grains. That would be the rice, that would be the oats, that would be the corn, and anything else that you could think of that would fit in there. But even potentially sorghum, all those things. Anything you want to add there, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's definitely a strict protocol for people, and it's not something that most people have to do. Just we're talking about a percentage of people that are trying to specifically battle some type of illness, and you have to be strict. So a lot of people like to talk about, the 80-20 rule, and the 20% of their diet where they're quote unquote cheating, they're eating like Oreos and crap. And that doesn't really work for this type of scenario. You can't really apply that same logic.
Exactly. And again, when you get healthier, my kind of approach is I eat AIP or autoimmune paleo about 80% of the time. And then I'm pretty much paleo the rest. If I cheat, I'm going to still cheat with a gluten-free grain, right? I'll try to do it either with a coconut flour or almond flour ideally, or, a rice flour. So I try to, even if I cheat, it's still going to be gluten-free. So we talked about the grain piece. We're grain-free on an autoimmune diet, where in a paleo approach, maybe some white rice is okay. Even maybe some corn's okay for a cheat. So AIP, no grains. Also, no legumes in a paleo. Same thing with an autoimmune paleo. Dairy, we're going to cut out butter, cream, and even ghee off the bat. Some AIP plans allow ghee, but again, there's still potential for some proteins getting in there. So we want to cut out ghee as well. The next piece is nuts and seeds. We want to cut out the nuts and seeds. So no almond butters, no almond flours, nothing like that. Next is going to be nightshades. Nightshades are tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, and peppers. So if you're getting that chipotle bowl where you're putting on all the peppers and stuff and onions and all that salsa, we want to cut that out off the bat. And then the last piece of the puzzle is really cutting out the eggs as well. So you look at paleo. What's paleo? It's basically, gluten-free, ideally no grains, though, in a paleo, no legumes, and maybe a little bit of the safe dairy like we talked about. We're doing no grains, no legumes, no dairy, also no nuts, no seeds, no nightshades, nightshades being tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, peppers, and also no eggs. Evan, break it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely strict, but it has to be because we have to remove any potential chance for anything to disrupt that gut, because the process is we're trying to heal up that tight junction where these undigested food particles and these toxins that are getting through and causing these conditions are not causing you the condition anymore. So I know it may feel like, God, what's left to eat after all this? But once you get the results, you're going to be convinced and it won't feel like such a struggle. But I have talked with a few people where they're like, man, this is actually kind of tough starting out. But it's just like anything else. It's a snowball effect. Once you get it into effect, it becomes second nature and there's not as much resistance in you sticking to this plan.
Absolutely. And again, it takes no more effort to do the right thing than it does to do the wrong thing. Okay? I mean, is going to McDonald's easy? Yeah, but like the results that you'd get and how you'd feel after it is just terrible. I could never do that. So it takes no more effort to do the right thing than the wrong thing. You just got to start making a habit. Get that habit going. So off the bat here, like our goal with this is really to reduce inflammation. Once we reduce inflammation, the body can start healing. And if we're working with a patient and we kind of get them on an adrenal program, so we're supporting inflammation reduction, because a lot of people who are autoimmune, their adrenals are typically not responding well. They're in adrenal dysfunction stage 3 where their cortisol is very low, so they can't put out that fire, that internal inflammatory fire. They can't create inflammation. They can't create energy because they're too busy fighting inflammation. So they're tired. And then because there's inflammation in their guts and in their body, it typically makes its way to the brain, because leaky gut equals leaky brain, and they have brain fog. So most people always have this fatigue kind of brain fog gig happening, and they have a hard time with regulating inflammation. So there's typically maybe a thyroid issue along that line too, and or a mitochondrial issue where they can't generate energy. So this first piece with the autoimmune plan makes a big difference. And I saw a handful of patients just this last week that already came into me that were paleo, but we just went to the extra autoimmune step, and it made a massive difference. Like it really made a huge difference. They noticed 50 to 80% improvement off the bat because there were some nuts or eggs they were eating that were really making a big difference. Some patients, we even have to go the extra level, and they hate me when we do this, which is go low FODMAP as well as AIP. And that can really stink. But with some people, it can make a massive, massive difference.
Yeah. So this is a side note, you were talking about adrenal dysfunction that's always happening. Have you ever tested anyone that does not have some level of adrenal dysfunction? Because I haven't seen one perfect result yet.
I've seen a handful of people that have really good adrenals, and then we look at their thyroid side by side, and their thyroid's really in the tank. So every now and then we see someone with good adrenals or relatively good adrenals, and their just thyroid is absolutely in the tank. And sometimes it's both, right? Sometimes it's both the thyroid and the adrenals. Sometimes it's just the thyroid. But for the most part, 95% of the time, it's the adrenals are going to be in the tank because they're your stress handling glands. They're the glandular intercept between the sympathetic nervous system and your body, right? Your nervous system responds and it creates these hormones via the adrenals to manage stress. So that's how your body connects with the outside stressors via the adrenals. And the adrenals respond to sympathetic nervous system, right? So if people remember from, high school anatomy or biology, right? You have the fight or flight. You have the parasympathetics, which are the relaxation and digestion. That's when you're sleeping, you're engaging in parasympathetic. And when you're stressed, right? Think of the spidey sense going off, right? That's the fight or flight. That's like the gas, the parasympathetics, the brake. So most people, when they're engaging that gas pedal, that they're sympathetics, right? That's the fight or flight. Same word, describe the same thing, but that's really stimulating the adrenals to go to work.
Yeah, and a lot of people are stuck in the sympathetic. I mean, the modern world, it's a conversation for a whole nother podcast, but the goal alongside with this diet thing is that you're able to reduce the stress a little bit. So we're reducing the dietary stress, but just taking it easy on yourself during this process. It's a time of healing. And a lot of people, they want to heal and they want to still run and do all their CrossFit at the same time. You got to have a balance when you are trying to slow down the rate of catabolism of your body, your body eating yourself away.
Absolutely. So most people, right, that are going AIP, well, if you're doing whey protein, cut that out. We'll do beef protein, or we'll do pea protein, or we'll do collagen. If you're doing legumes, cut it out. If you're doing eggs, cut it out. Choose a different meat. Choose some pre-cooked sausages at Whole Foods. If you're doing dairy, go to coconut oil. Cut out the seeds. Cut out the nuts, right? So my diet this morning was 30 grams of collagen, and I did some coffee with some butter and MCT. So if I was trying to be, more strict, I would have cut out probably the coffee. I wouldn't even have had it, right? I may have just done a nice chai tea with some MCT. That could have been my alternative. For lunch this morning, I have some chicken thighs, and I have some coconut oil and sea salt and some non-starchy veggies. That's a nice, good AIP meal. And then for dinner tonight, I'll probably go out to dinner, but I'll get some kind of a steak or fish, baked or sautéed, and I'll typically make a request for olive oil, or I'll do butter a lot of times because I still do really well with butter, and then some good vegetables and maybe a little bit of starch if I'm okay with it. And then after that, if I'm doing sushi, I actually bring my coconut aminos to the sushi place. I don't do the tamari even. I'll bring my coconut aminos, and I'll have my nice, sashimi. Or if I decide to do a roll like a California or spider roll, I'll make sure it's gluten-free. Very minimal amount of white rice. That's a cheat for me. But if I'm not cheating, we just do sashimi. Maybe a nice seaweed salad and bring my coconut aminos. So there's ways you can do it. It's not that hard. And I always tell patients, our job isn't to get you to be like a Puritan, right? Like, to be so puritanical with your diet. Our job is to get you feeling better. Once you feel better, then now your kryptonite detector is heightened. So you're going to be able to sense where your kryptonite is. I wish it was easy like with Superman where it just glows green, right? Gluten, there it is, it's glowing green on the table, right? You kind of just see it, But we don't have that today. You have to get clean first, because once you're clean, then you can appreciate when you're dirty. So I always tell patients, you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of reality. And when you're already inflamed and tired and not feeling well, your kryptonite meter is so low, it's so dampened, you're not going to know whether what you're eating is good or bad until you really get super clean for a couple of weeks to, 3-4 weeks, maybe a month before you notice that significant difference.
I'm going to start borrowing that analogy. That's a great way and a fun way to get it across. I've just told people that you're going to become more aware. Your consciousness towards your food gets heightened, and you may go to take a bite of something, or you may even go to take a supplement one day and that supplement jumps out of your hand, or you go and you're about to pick up that fork and you're like, whoa, something doesn't feel right. That's your inherent wisdom that it takes a little bit of time to tune into that self, but it does come.
Yeah. And then like my biggest pet peeve, and this is like, because, when you see a couple of thousand patients and you hear the same thing over and over again, it gets a little annoying. But my biggest annoying thing that I get from patients is this. We get them on an autoimmune diet. And yes, it's restrictive, right? And patients are feeling better. And they're like, but I want to just go back. It's so restrictive. And okay, great. I go, let's map out what you would be eating if it wasn't so restrictive. And then it's like, well, I'd want a bagel in the morning, or maybe some bread, or I'd want some cheese or some yogurt. Okay, great. So let's break it down. The only thing I'm hearing you adding in is grains and dairy. That's it. So a lot of times when patients want to add stuff in, it's really the grains and dairy piece, even if we're not even AIP. Let's say it's just paleo. And you'd think with their, their moaning or their irritation that they would have the, the palate of a world-class traveler, right? Trying all these different foods and this and that, but they really just want these simple foods that really isn't adding that much variety. And I always tell patients the reason why they have that desire is typically because these prodynorphins or these gluteomorphine compounds or caseomorphine compounds that are in these foods that hit into that morphine receptor and really cause that craving. I mean, it hits the same receptor as heroin and Vicodin. So a lot of times when people are saying, I want a whole bunch more variety, if you look at their diet, they've really not a bunch of variety in it. The average person only eats 12 foods. So if we're just saying, hey, let's eat these 20 versus these 12, there's still more variety in than what you were getting to begin with. You're just not eating these crappy addictive foods, and you're just getting that, you want that opiate kind of stimulation from those compounds.
Yeah, it's all the brain chemistry. They're not really wanting that food. They're just wanting that hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, hey, if you said you were a world-class traveler and you're having all these different things and souffles and this, it's really the same stuff. It's just instead of eating something that's a little bit more nutrient dense and anti-inflammatory and low toxins, we're eating something that's pro-inflammatory, nutrient poor, and the last word there, and toxic, right? The glutens or lectins and things like that. So first things first, go AIP, get clean, right? You can't appreciate being dirty until you really get clean. Then you're like, ooh, wow, this feels nice. And then once you're clean, then you can kind of step down into a more paleo approach. But you got to remember, if you add foods back in, you got to do it once every 3 or 4 days. Eat a little bit to start because, well, if you're eating a bad food and you eat a lot of it, the more of it is going to create a more, intense reaction. So let's have a less intense reaction. Add a new food every 3 or 4 days and work with your functional medicine doctor on how to add these things back in. So, you know that, well, maybe if I add these nuts back in, maybe it's brain fog is the symptom. It may not be a digestive symptom, which most people reach for. They're like, oh, it's got to be a GI symptom. No, it could be achy joints. Patient last week, 90% of joint pain gone on an AIP. 90%.
For me, it's when I go from, so say I'll pull out dairy and then I'll introduce raw dairy. Say if like some raw cheese or unpasteurized cheese, and then I'll come in and add some pasteurized dairy. Boom. I'm super brain foggy. So that's my experience. I don't get GI symptoms. It doesn't happen. But the next day or even 48 hours after, it puts you in just sort of a haze. And it's like, man, I need to wipe the windows on my brain and clear this thing out. And then I go another 48 or 72 hours without it, and then I'm back to where I was. So it's really interesting to see how mind-blowing one little swap like that could be in your overall cognitive performance.
It is. And the AIP for some, I had a girl yesterday, didn't do anything. I had a guy the day before, 98% improvement in just a week. And some people are in the middle. I'd say the majority of people have a significant benefit, but it's like you want to go to the first floor, second floor, third floor of that house as you build it, but you got to start with the foundation. And if you skip that AIP foundation and you're reaching for all these fancy tests, you could be spending thousands of dollars on stuff that may have been addressed with just the diet piece. And if we don't have the diet piece in there, you're not going to get your bases covered. You're not going to have the blood sugar. You're not going to have the nutrients. You're not going to have the nice anti-inflammatory state. You're not going to have the toxins down. So you have to have that. You can't go to second base without going through first base. So consider first base is like the diet piece. And then in the diet, we can even call the lifestyle piece, which is meal timing, not going more than 5 hours without eating. Because the blood sugar piece, even if you're eating the right foods, but you're going too long, that blood sugar swings are really going to stimulate your immune system and also your adrenals, which could flare up your autoimmune condition and make it worse.
Let's talk about some of the application, like what you can do in your daily life that's going to make this thing easier. Do you cook a lot in bulk? That's been something helpful for me. Like if I'm going to cook a steak, I'll just do 2 steaks. I'm not saying like the meal prep where you're cooking 20 different boxes of food, but I will cook maybe double.
Got it. So when it comes to this stuff, you got money or you got time. You got one of the two things, right? So if you don't have time because you're working so much, then you'll have a little more money. So then I work a lot because I'm really busy helping patients and creating content to help people all over the world. So I invest in a Snap Kitchen here in Austin, where I'll buy 5 or 6 pre-made local paleo meals, and I'll have them in my freezer and I'll thaw them out, and they're all local that week. And I'll typically do that for either lunch or dinner. And then my wife and I will cook a meal or two, and we'll make that in bulk. So we have some food that we can go to. And then I have easy meals like pre-cooked sausages that are organic, or, the smoked salmon or smoked tuna. And then I have like some salad greens that I can grab. I have some salsa, or I have some, Mark's Paleo or Mark Sisson's mayo, or some avocado, and some stuff that's really easy that I can make in 5 or 10 minutes like that. Or I have the pre-cooked meals, or my wife and I will actually take a half hour out and make a nicer meal that has a couple of servings so we can go to town the next few nights after.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? And then in the morning, I have like my good clean protein powders. I either have a beef, a pea or a collagen, or I combine them. I have my butter coffee with MCT, and then I also have eggs in the morning and or pre-cooked sausages or leftover dinner. So those are my 3 to 4 that I go to. And the thing is, I practice this stuff. I have an autoimmune condition, so I go to the utmost, level of compliance as much as I can. One, because I just feel darn good. And then two, I'm just trying to be a role model for my patient. So my patient talks to me, I've been through it. I know exactly what it takes. And now that I'm here, I put so little time into it. It's so easy for me to start buying and eating crap food would actually be harder for me.
Yep. Yeah, I'm about the same. I mean, I get some local grass-fed jerky that's really good. It doesn't have any wheat in it. I keep that on hand. I love to just go get a big bag of some juicy, tender jerky. Sometimes I'll buy like some grass-fed beef sticks that don't have any nitrates, anything like that. Those are always cool to have on hand. Sometimes the Epic bars, I've got those Designs for Health, those professional bars now. Pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'll go for the grab and go stuff. I mean, if I'm just going to go head out for a hike and I got too busy to eat a full lunch, I do break the eat a big meal rule sometimes and just go for, some 30 to 40 grams of fat and protein snacks and feel good. I always try to keep a bag of organic pistachios around if I am doing nuts and I'm feeling good with them. Pistachios, oh man, super good.
Yeah. And again, the key is we're not trying to make people perfect, but get to a place where you feel good, and then you can always cheat a little bit. You want to practice the fundamentals first, and then once you get good and you're like, all right, I'm feeling pretty good, and you're getting a little cocky about it, then you can cheat a little bit here and there if you want to do some intermittent fasting or you skip a meal by accident. No biggie.
Well, what we're really saying, I think, overall is it's preparation. If you don't have enough time or you don't actually sit down and plan this, oh, I'm going to go buy these pre-made meals, or, oh, I'm going to buy an extra couple pounds of some veggies this week at the market or the store, whatever. If you just add that one little bit of planning, I find that people do so much better, because if you ask them about their food, it's like, oh, well, I was too busy. And they just never prioritize this stuff. So maybe this is the takeaway for people, is that if it's been tough for you to adapt and to change and get into your groove, totally okay. Just sit down and try to make a little time out for yourself and, say, look, I'm going to block out 30 minutes and I'm going to figure this thing out. We're either going to go find a local place that's going to make good meals like Snap Kitchen, which I do miss Snap Kitchen.
Snap is good.
Yeah. Or, you're just going to go buy a bunch of food in bulk and cook it. So
absolutely. And you know what? The money excuse for me doesn't fly. I was a poor college student. I was given $15,000 a year to live off of. And in the Bay Area, I had, I think, $500 left over at the end of the month. That's all I had was $500. $400 went to food, $100 went to social. So I gave myself $25 a week to spend on social activities, which, that's not much. And I allocated $75 to $100 on food a week. And I bought chicken thighs in bulk by the family pack. I bought, instead of going organic, I bought like a free range kind of a local egg that was a little cheaper. I did tuna, I did salmon, I did some of them canned, or I bought them, bulk from Costco. And I just, bought a lot of like my spinaches or my veggies, either at the local farmer's market, or I just got them at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's in bulk. And I was able to do it. Another big cost saver was getting the veggies frozen too. And that was a big help. And I buy the organic ones too. And a lot of times, sometimes the fresh ones, after they're a couple days old, you only get a day or two out of them. So unless you're going to eat them that night, it's just not going to work. So I barely had any money to my name when I was a college student, even a doctoral student. And it's funny because in school, so many of the kids I went to school with were so unhealthy because they just weren't allocating, they didn't have the right priorities right with their food, with their life, right? They were putting it more into social or events and then letting, their cell phone and then everything else at the end. I didn't even have a smartphone until I graduated because I'm like, well, I'll put the $120 a month into better food. So I lived it. I was in college for 9 years, so I kind of know how to do it. I was under the gun, so I prioritize it so I can help people with it. I lived it. So now the key is if you're under, the gun financially, you can try to buy these meats. You can even go free range if you have to, good, better, best. You can do the frozen vegetables. And if you're hurting on time too, like I'll go after my last patient, I'll go to the gym. Well, before I go to the gym, I'll throw some chicken thighs with the skin on in the oven. I'll let it cook for 50 minutes to an hour. I'll put some vegetables on low, and I'll let it saute very slowly with some coconut oil and sea salt. I'll get a Mediterranean blend over at Whole Foods that's frozen. I'll let it sit on there for 45 minutes, go to the gym, come back, dinner's ready. 5-minute prep time, and then it's back and ready to go. And then I have it in Pyrex, so then when it's done, guess what? Put the lid on it. And if you really want to get hardcore, again, if you're a bachelor, this works. If you have a wife or a girlfriend, it won't work. But you can just eat right out of the Pyrex and then put the lid on and you're done. And there's no dishes. But, you know, once you get family involved, you got to put it on a plate. You got to be a little bit more civilized, right? So I get it. Those are two options depending on where you live. I'm a little more civilized today now that I'm married. So I put it on a plate and get my nice silverware out and cut it up. But before that wasn't the case. So that gives you some options how to do it easy. And you kind of use the in-between time. Use the time you're at the gym or use the time you're showering at night and getting ready for bed. Use that time, and it doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes of prep. That's it.
That's good advice.
Anything you want to add, Evan?
No, I mean, it's just funny that you've been there, done that, because I'm still, when Hannah's gone and I'm at home working, you know, from the home office, I'll go eat out of the Pyrex. But when it's home for dinner time, I got to pull it out and put it on a real plate. It's just hilarious you called that out so accurately.
Oh, Pyrex is the best invention. I remember in school, in doctorate school, a couple of colleagues and I, we'd sit in the back at the lectures and we'd pull out our Pyrex and everything would be so like the silverware would kind of be in the bag, you kind of like jingling, and everyone would just turn because we'd be the guys in the back of the room eating our organic meal during the lecture. And, you know, we're always trying to multitask because I can eat and learn versus then taking my lunchtime to have to eat. I can do it during class. So I'm always trying to multitask with food. And if you take these principles, you know, with the cooking and cook while you're showering or cook while it's at the gym, you can save a lot of time and you can still eat this autoimmune type of plan to start and then add some of the foods back in once every 3 or 4 days after to see what works.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add, Evan?
No, that was great.
You broke it down pretty well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I could blab, but I think that was great coverage there.
Hope everyone listening to this enjoys it. We try to provide real-world examples, and just know when you're listening to us, we apply it. You know, we're the real deal. You know, we're going through it, we're doing it, we're practicing it. 1, so we know it, and 2, so we can be an example, and so our authenticity really shines through in the podcast.
I will say I had a consult with a girl this morning, and she was talking about how she had been to several different naturopaths. She lives in Hollywood, and she had been to several different naturopaths there, and none of them ever addressed the diet. She said that she was put on a liver detox program, and she was put on some digestive enzymes that did not include betaine, and she was set on her way, and $1,000 later, she never had follow-up. She never got better. And that's mind-blowing to me that there's so many people out there that are out of the conventional model because, you know, everybody's demanding it nowadays. Like, this is where the future of medicine is going.
Yep.
And it has to, because, you know, the patients are demanding it, but it's amazing that you can be out of that conventional model and still be so far away from the functional medicine model that we're talking about. And so many people are still dropping money, and they're losing their hope or their faith in this, for lack of a better word, alternative system that is kicking so much ass if they would just find this sort of realm that we're talking about today, as opposed to the naturopath, conventional naturopath, where you just throw a homeopathic remedy or et cetera at the problem and hope it goes away.
Yeah, I mean, that's analogous to seeing a contractor building a house without a foundation. It's like, my God, that thing's going to blow away, right? It's going to be so rickety inside there. And it's the same thing. So make sure your doctor is always emphasizing a good foundational nutritional base. And again, remember, if your diet even is perfect, but you don't have the digestive capacity to break it down because of low stomach acid, low enzymes, because of maybe an infection or SIBO or H. pylori or fungal overgrowth, you got to get that fixed, because even that could really prevent the diet piece from optimizing itself, because you can't break down the food into its constituents so you can encompass them into your metabolism.
Yeah, even adrenal stress. I mean, if people are trying to eat on the go, or they're not really paying attention, they're scrolling on their phone while they're trying to eat, and you're not actually giving the signal down to secrete hydrochloric acid, that's a big deal too. So I try to tell people, look, sit down, enjoy yourself, take a breath. I'm so grateful for this food, and then eat it, as opposed to, oh yeah, and then you move on to the next thing. Make it a point to, like, put your blinders on. I'm eating. This is mealtime. I have to nourish my body. Okay, now I'm ready to go back to the busy world.
My man. On that note, I'm going to have a nice dinner or a nice lunch here. It's lunchtime here in Austin. Chicken with coconut flour on it and some nice vegetables and some ground up cauliflower. And it's a pre-made one from Snap. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to have that. And then I got a patient. So I'm ready to fuel myself for a great Friday into a good weekend here.
That sounds good. I have a bison steak thawed out that I have to cook, and I'm going to do some broccoli, some steamed broccoli, throw a bunch of pink salt and butter, and nosh it.
So the question is, are you going to eat out of your Pyrex now that Hannah's at work?
No, this is going to be on a plate.
Oh, okay. Wow. You're stepping it up.
I'm going to plate it today.
Okay. Kudos, Evan. All right. We'll be in touch next week, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.